Okay, guys, so I'm ready to record something. I thought it would be good to just record something based on what has transpired as I was working on it, just to give you the basics of what I'm going to be working on for the next few weeks. And then I'll do a live stream relaying what I've filed once I've got it done, showing you everything and showing you things that will be going on in the future. And I'll explain some of that right now so that you know what's going on. First of all, let me tell you what the ruling was and just give you kind of an overview of that. So, and how I found out. So, he made the ruling on the 16th. Nothing was uploaded on the 16th to the court database. On the 17th in the morning, nothing was uploaded to the database. And then I checked in the evening and I couldn't get it to come up, which often happens. It's real glitchy. If it times you out, and my computer is ridiculously overloaded with documents, like on the desktop and whatnot, so I have to periodically, get rid of a lot of stuff as I'm working on things. I'll have a lot of things on there, and it slows it down, so it will kick you out and won't let you upload the, the events and the hearings if you don't have, if it doesn't do it quickly enough. So finally got it to do it. I decided to check one time before bed at like 12:30 at night, and it came up, and I had a ruling, and I was shocked. And I saw the word sustained demurrer and thought, oh no, because that means he's sustaining their demurrer. And then I saw leave to amend, and I'm so happy. So, and that was something he brought up in our second to last hearing that made her very unhappy. That I was holding on hope to that, if nothing else, that might happen, and it did. And the way it happened was kind of extraordinary too, so I'll explain that to you. So what sustained with leave to amend means is that he has sustained most of their points, gone along with their legal reasoning on most of their points, except for one, which I did not have listed as a cause of action, but mentioned a couple of times. And he's going out of his way to allow me to make it a cause of action. And that's what's so extraordinary about it. That's not normal. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Let me go over here and share my screen. And we've got our pleading wizard from the public portal. So it's a 14-page document, and I will go over all of it with you in the future. Just want to give you an overview of the most important thing, the one that I'm dealing with right now, and what I can and can't do, what I'm going to do, and all that kind of stuff. So on page 14, he brings up how in my briefs, I respond to their demurrer, and I refer to myself as the contract holder with the defendant's platforms. And I follow that with a caption entitled Breach of Contract, and I state platforms can be held liable if they breach a contract with users or fail to act in good faith. And then he cites where I said that. I said it in my supplemental brief from March, page 9, and I said it in my opposition memorandum. And that was in February on page 18. So, although, as discussed above, no such contract cause of action is now included in the amended petition, the court will allow petitioner to allege any supported breach of contract claims as part of the leave to amend granted by this order. And then he cited a case where that sets precedent for the way that goes down. Following an order sustaining a demurrer or a motion for judgment on pleadings with leave to amend, the plaintiff may amend his or her complaint only as authorized by the court's order. The plaintiff may not amend the complaint to add a new cause of action without having obtained permission to do so unless the new cause of action is within the scope of the order granting leave to amend. Now, here's what all that means. First of all, usually what they usually do not allow you a new cause of action. All their rulings are based on your causes of action. So this is kind of similar when I had my, let me stop sharing my screen real quick so I can just talk to you. All right. So this is kind of similar as when I had my motion to seal, and I had cited only one piece of law, which was just like a California rule of civil procedure about motions to seal. And then I had shown all my evidence of why I wanted my record sealed. He saw all that evidence and wanted to help me he could have just said, no, you didn't cite enough points and authorities. But he didn't do that. He said, this would not be enough points and authorities. Can you amend this to give me more points and authorities supporting why we should seal the records? So I said yes. He gave me a time frame. I did that, and he agreed with my reasoning and sealed my records. So I think similarly here, he's seeing all of this evidence, and he's seeing what this is about, and he's, and it's within what he can legally do. He's found a way to give me standing, because the thing is on a lot of these other things. And what he's overruling me on isn't, the criminality or anything. It's on whether or not I have standing with regard to all of these matters or not, basically. And I'll go over all the ins and outs of that with you. And I'll tell you right now also what I'll end up doing on some of that. So, first of all, him not making me file a motion for a leave to amend to state a new cause of action is amazing. He didn't have to do that. I would have had to figure that out on my own, which I would have done. I would have tried to do that. I have several others that I would have tried to, but I don't have to. He already provided it. So all I have to do now is to draw it up. Now, you saw with that case law that I'm not allowed to present anything new. It has to be within the scope of that one cause of action. Now, I can also always file a motion to amend to add new things. I could even add new parties to the case, but I'd have to prove up that was necessary in order to fulfill proving up this cause of action that he's given me. Now, here's what all my options would be based on what he's told me to do. I could tell him no, and I could say, nope, I don't want to do that. I want to appeal the whole thing, enter your final judgment. I'm not going to do that because he's handing me a rope and pulling me out of a river, and I'm going to take that rope, and I'm going to try to use this to establish standing. I have a lot to, add on this matter that's within the scope of what he's asking for to prove it up. A lot has happened. A lot had happened before that I didn't add that I now can add and talk about and cite with regard to law and whatnot, because the more we've gone on, the more I've learned. So this will be able to be drafted. I have 30 days. So that since he entered that on the 16th, that will be August 6th. But to avoid any filing problems, I'll be uploading it within the next couple weeks is my target date, where I'll have all my exhibits and all of this referenced and uploaded. And I'll be conferring with people that have things that I might want to use also to add to this. And I'll have all that done by then. Once I get that entered and served on the other party, and I have all that done and I know it's in there, I'll do a live stream discussing what I did. And then on September what's the date? September 16th at 1:30 is when we have our hearing on all of this. So, but if I don't get that filed in 30 days, I'd be forfeiting my right to do it. Then I'd be in the appeal process. So we don't want that. This is better. So I'll be doing that. And if he agrees with me, I guarantee you the other side will appeal. And then if he rules against me, I'll appeal. So this was always going to be a lengthy case. Even if everything went perfectly, it's a bit lengthy. But, and he's making it a little less lengthy by doing this, but it actually buys me time because I could already be in the appeals process and I'm not. This is better. So I'll be doing that. And then if you're wondering on the other points where he sustained them, I have the ability to appeal on all of those points as well, but I can't do it now. I have to do it after a final judgment on the demurrer is reached. So I'll first do this. We'll see what the ruling is. And then even if he grants litigation based on this one cause of action, I can appeal on all the others at that point, and I would. So I know how unhappy about this the other side is because, and I always remembered second to last hearing him bringing this up as something that would I be amenable to adding that as a cause of action and proving it up, and I'm like, yes. And the other party, he asked them if they would have a problem with it, and they did. They did not want me to, which he took note of, and so did I, and she looked supremely unhappy. In our last hearing, which was really, he let us know, I already kind of have a decision made. I just wanted to see if you had counsel. She felt real pumped up, I could tell. So I know they weren't expecting this. So I was expecting this potentially. Would have been very disappointed had I not gotten this. And I'm a little disappointed it wasn't even better than this, but I'm very happy it wasn't worse than this. So that's great. And it shows that he understands there are some duties here. He's trying through the one way that makes the best way to give me standing. And I'll tell you, the reason I didn't fixate on breach of contract is it's, look at the criminality we're talking about. And when I first filed this case, I wasn't thinking about the issue of standing. That wasn't being thought about until they told me they were filing a demurrer. And by then I've already written a petition and amended it for them. So I can't redraft anything. So now I can get into that issue really heavily and see where we go with that. So that'll be great. And so also I'll touch on one other thing, all the trolling and all the stupid stuff, like, for example, people following me around from account to account, calling me essentially autistic and gay. I mean, do you really think at this stage in my life that's going to intimidate me off of anything that I'm doing? And furthermore, if what I was doing, they're talking also about it being a waste of time and all that kind of stuff. If it was, you wouldn't care about me. You wouldn't watch me. You wouldn't talk about me. We know that. I also made an open invitation for once I'm done with the work that actually matters, to do a debate based on only one of a couple of things. They want to support this person who promotes PDF, and we know what that is, who has a child on their lap in their videos. They've openly supported INC est, so we know what that means. And they've openly advocated for that. And that child is, by way of law, considered an endangered child. They think that it's the more manly thing to do to promote him being able to do that to that baby. I want them to tell me why. I want them to also tell me why they advocate for somebody like this to unalive their other child and to endlessly pursue unaliving their ex, and why that's manly and why it's natural to wear Adidas jackets and hang out and have plastic surgery with already married models, why that's a trad wife who isn't your wife. Go ahead and advocate for all of that, and also the points of law. Well, we would get into that too. I don't have to do any prepping for this debate because I certainly know this inside and out. I never would take Catherine up on such a thing because she always would flip-flop on whatever she was doing, and I wasn't going to let her get on here and defame Diane. And anybody that did that would be just cut off, and we'd stop. If you tell lies and things that you can't prove up about somebody else, it'll exclusively be about Gaddis and Marina and the case. And yeah, I'd be willing to do that. So anyway, in the hopes that if it would just wake up a few of you to how ridiculous this is, who are maybe in some kind of mindset where you don't realize that. And, one guy said, I think he wrote to Machismo or to somebody like James Uganda, I can't remember who, but he said I think it was Machismo. He said that he felt like he'd been in a spell and he woke up out of this little like cult thing. He said, one thing I wanted to mention, I noticed that Goatis put on his description for his channel that he something like started the raw meat movement and the anti-vegan movement. Is he kidding? Just to give you an example, I have a nosy neighbor. I have several of them, but one is the post office lady, and she's noticing I'm getting all these letters with a YouTube Google lawsuit, and so she's curious about it. So I tried to explain it to her as best I could. It's a little weird, and she's never heard of the guy. Nobody I've talked to about the case has heard of the guy except for one person who said, "Oh yeah, is that blonde weird meat guy?" And I said, "Yeah, it's the blonde weird meat guy." So out of all the people I've talked to for a long period of time, one person's heard of him. And I can think of a million people who are following that diet that didn't get it from him. Michaela Peterson, more people have heard of her. Jordan Peterson, and they were eating it because she had a lot of problems. And a lot of people are doing things like getting off of a combo of gluten and dairy due to digestive and I don't want to talk about jabs too much, but let's just say some gut issues may be related to something like that. Just speculative on my part, but I'm just saying what they say. And they cite that it did something for them. They've heard of those people. Those people have hundreds of thousands of subscribers. There's a guy that does like Canadian homesteading called My Self-Reliance. He's on a meat diet now, where he cut out a lot of plants and things and bread. He used to eat a ton of bread and made a lot of bread, and he stopped doing that, and he said it did a lot for him. He's not watching Gaddis. There are a ton of people doing this stuff that aren't him. And he may have founded the anti-vegan online thing where people look stupid by going into a vegan restaurant and shoving a little skinny woman around. Was that really very good activism? I do think what Prem did when he stood outside, and Gaddis wasn't there for that one, I don't believe, when he stood outside of that thing where that charlatan of a doctor was claiming he could cure cancer with grapes or something. He stood out there and confronted him for the people that he killed. I thought that was pretty cool. That's activism. That's meaningful activism. And, it's funny because Gaddis always showcases like that lady that screeched in the restaurant. It's her name, like Tash Peterson. And no offense to her. I think she loves animals, but she was, running around screaming in the restaurant and upsetting people while they were eating. And Gaddis was talking about that and how it looked unhinged or something to him. But the reality is that's pretty much what he was doing. going into minus the screeching because he's kind of a coward. He's not very loud, and like a lot of people, the quietest person in the room can be the most dangerous one. But that woman wanted her out of their restaurant. She asked him repeatedly to leave, and they wouldn't. And so she pushed him, and he went over and shoved her as hard as he could. That's all he's capable of. And that's the only kind of person he would attack, because if a man attacks him, he runs away screaming and showcasing it on the videos too. Like, the one where the guy hit him with the pipe, look at my hand, and the one where the guy he supposedly just beat the hell out of the guy, I guess. But then he shows us his skint knee. It's weird because it's like the pathology of somebody who is like, vampire like gonna get you crazy, but then if they get hit or hurt at all, it's look at my knee, like revert to like baby mode. Very strange. But it takes a strong person to battle stuff like this. And that's another thing I kind of wanted to touch on. The kind of attitude you would have to long-term deal with something like this, because you got to realize, of course it would be better if he had overruled their dimmer on any point, and I didn't, but he gave me an open door on one point. That is something. And even if it takes a while, it's like people think that I should just believe the courts are honorable, or that I do believe that, and that's why I'm doing this, and I'm naive and I'm wrong, or that I should believe that they're totally dishonorable, and why do this at all? Like, it's like one or the other. Like, that's not how it works when you want to get anything done. Yes, it's corrupt. Yes, there's plenty dishonorable stuff going on. That's why we're even having to do this. But the people that keep dinging the bell, eventually more and more people are hearing the ding and looking and seeing like, what's that? What's going on over there? And that's what they don't want. They don't expect that. They want to exhaust you. They want to put you off of what you're doing. So just sitting around and pointing at things and saying, well, that's corrupt. Well, that's bullshit. Well, that over there is just a bunch of crap, oh, that would take forever. Goatis couldn't handle anything that would take forever. We see that. Using a net as a source of funds for all these years instead of you could have had as much money or more than Annette and her parents if you put your mind on something and tried to do it. How do you think her parents got rich? They didn't get it off of draining somebody's account. This is why criminal-minded people and people who are weak, basically mentally weak, don't ever do anything. They don't think of it that way. So yes, the system's corrupt, but it's the people that ding dong at the system that can sometimes break through and get something done. They won't roll over and do it for you, but you have to keep on, and they will, hope that they can wear you down. So you have to have this kind of, like, it's a long distance race mentality and not a sprint. And that's why, when we first were in that first investigative period, I was very sad, because I did know what that means. I knew that meant, okay, I have to face that they're dishonorable, that they don't care about just doing this to get it done, that they know that I don't want anything from them. I don't want any money from them. I don't want any anything. I just want them to do it. It's not even about me at this point, but it becomes about me the more they put me out there and get me endangered, which they finally did do. And I don't appreciate it because, what I was doing was something that, as a member of the public, I have a right to do. And as a content creator, I have a right to do. We have those laws protecting children for a reason. And I definitely will go in and appeal on some of those other issues as well. Another thing I wanted to touch on was counsel. Not having counsel is a hindrance, but at the same time, I like that I know what's going on with my stuff, meaning when you hand things over to an attorney, you have to have a modicum of trust. And when you're the one doing it, you know that you care about it. You can't always guarantee that somebody you hand it to does, but I'm still going to work on that end of it. The main problems have been the ones that have expressed an interest can't do it due to conflicts of interest, and then others don't want to deal with it pro bono. So, those are the issues. If I were to, in the future, if this goes on, want to or need to, think about adding, that's when I would be able to add potentially other people and or damages, and that could help me quite a bit. Then we could possibly do that then. And that might help with that. But I have a couple of prospects on that I was already looking at before I got this ruling. So I just want to deal with this myself. I want to get this drafted ASAP and go from there. But because I don't think anybody else would necessarily do anything any better than myself, except there is one thing that's important, and that's interrogatories. So I can actually do interrogatories right now. And interrogatories are when you make the company furnish something for you that you want to know about that pertains to this particular issue. And I can do 35 of them if I want to. I think I may be doing some. However, that's falling right within that time frame. And if I were to get the answers back and put them in the writ and add them as exhibits, I don't want to cut it close to the time or anything. So I'm going to go ahead and get everything drafted and done. And then if I happen to get those back within a shorter time frame and can put it in, I will. So I'll kind of hold off on uploading, maybe at the 2-week mark or something. If I start getting those back, I can add things if I need to. So we'll see, but that's good. And yeah, that's where we're at. So, that was when I knew, and I knew it would be a long, drawn out process. So, and it will be. But once you kind of resign yourself to, okay, it will be, they're not going to do what you wish they would do. And I now know why they never did remove him. And their main thing is really just trying to keep it to where people can't, if they can get you out of there on standing, it doesn't mean, like she said, and she said it repeatedly, we might be going to do something about him, but we're not speaking to that to you. Because really, they just want to omit having to do any kind of answering to anything, because it, mitigates their liability, the less transparent they are. They want to make it look like they don't have to be transparent to the public. And that's one thing this case could change. And that's where he's kind of not going along with me on those things that he sustained them on. And I may appeal those points. But hopefully that made sense. I can talk more about all this in the future, and I'll answer, do a Q&A and all that if people want to directly ask questions. I'll also try to get into the comments section a little bit of this video if people have any questions. And yeah, that's where we're at. And so I feel really hopeful about getting standing based on this issue. I also know that it's not being kicked out quickly. Let me guarantee you it could have been, especially had my first petition gone in there. The amended petition was great, and even it could have been better. And now, because thank God I brought up that issue a few times because I knew it had a bearing, or could, it's now being allowed to be used to be maybe the thing that saves the whole thing and pushes it into litigation. So wish me luck. I will get that done, and I will ASAP be sharing everything with you. And then we'll go back to doing, a little bit of fun content here and there. And yeah, everybody have also, in between all this kind of stuff, let's enjoy our summer, of course. And I hope everybody is, and that everybody's safe, happy, healthy, and free. Have a good day. Bye-bye.